Almost everyone who smokes cigarettes or vapes has said some version of the same sentence. I know it is bad for me. The harm is not a mystery. Nicotine hooks the brain. Smoke and aerosols strain the body. And the warning is practically printed into the ritual. Yet tens of millions of people still reach for it anyway. Addiction explains part of that pull, but it does not explain the quieter moment right after, when the mind tries to make peace with itself. The instant you hold two truths at once, that smoking is harmful and that you still want it, something inside tightens. It feels like mental friction, an inner pressure that demands relief. That discomfort has a name: cognitive dissonance. And once it shows up, the brain often reaches for the fastest escape route, not by changing the behavior, but by changing the story you tell yourself so it all feels reasonable again. Psychologists have a precise name for that inner tension: cognitive dissonance, or mental discomfort that appears when your beliefs and your actions refuse to line up. In 1957, social psychologist Leon Festinger described it as the strain we feel when we hold two conflicting ideas at once, or when we are pushed into behaving in a way that contradicts what we claim to value. Think of it as the mind catching itself in the act. You might believe health matters, and also choose a habit that harms it. You might see yourself as honest, and still bend the truth when it benefits you. The details change, but the emotional signal is recognizable: a tightness, a restless urge to resolve the contradiction, like an itch that demands to be scratched. The brain craves coherence because coherence protects a stable sense of identity. So when your personal story tears, your mind does not calmly debate its way to the best answer. More often, it searches for the quickest way to feel consistent again, even if that shortcut costs you accuracy. When cognitive dissonance hits, the mind looks for a way to lower the pressure, and it usually has three routes. The first is the cleanest: change the behavior. If smoking clashes with your values, you quit. If a claim feels shaky, you check the evidence. If you realize you were wrong, you correct yourself. The second route is to change the belief instead. The mind quietly loosens the standard, telling itself the harm is exaggerated or the risk does not really apply. The third, and often the most seductive, is to add new reasons that make the contradiction feel acceptable. You build a bridge of explanations, so two opposing pieces can sit in the same head without scraping against each other. The catch is that changing behavior usually demands you tolerate discomfort longer. The other two can soothe you instantly. That is why cognitive dissonance can act like an internal alarm, and why so many people do not fix the engine. They cover the warning light and keep driving. You can see this mechanism clearly in smoking. A smoker often knows the risks, maybe even fears them, yet still feels the craving arrive like a scheduled thought. The dissonance forms instantly. I care about my health, and I am doing something that damages it. That clash threatens a person's self-image, so the mind moves to protect the story of who they are. It starts producing justifications that feel soothing precisely because they are familiar. I only smoke a little, so it is fine. Quitting would make me more stressed, and stress is worse anyway. My uncle smoked for decades and lived to 90. At least I am not doing something more destructive. None of these lines are pure stupidity. They are psychological self-defense, a way to keep the identity intact while the habit stays in place. And once the explanation is built, it becomes a permission slip. The justification does not just follow the decision, it reinforces it, making tomorrow's cigarette feel consistent with today's beliefs. The same logic shows up in how people process information, especially in polarized politics. Imagine you have built a worldview over years. It shapes who you trust, what you fear, and which side feels like home. Then a new piece of evidence appears that threatens that structure. If you take it seriously, you risk an uncomfortable conclusion. Maybe my side is wrong about this. Maybe I have been fooled. Maybe I am not as clear-headed as I thought. That is cognitive dissonance, not as an abstract idea, but as a felt threat to identity and belonging. So the mind reaches for a fast release valve. One shortcut is to label the information fake news or staged propaganda. Another is to retreat into sources that only confirm what you already believe. Notice what is happening. The goal is not truth-seeking, it is discomfort reduction. And the more a belief is tied to your social group, the more painful it is to question it, because the cost is not just being wrong, it is feeling alone. That is why many debates stall. They are not battles over facts, They are battles over which story lets each person breathe again. Cognitive dissonance also explains why peer pressure can bend judgment in real time. In the classic line length experiment, the correct answer is obvious to your eyes, but when the group confidently chooses the wrong line, many people follow along. The tension is immediate. What I see is true, yet everyone around me is telling a different reality. If you stick with your perception, you risk social friction, embarrassment, and the subtle punishment of standing alone. If you agree with the group, the discomfort drops instantly, even if a part of you knows it is false. That is the hidden bargain. You are not always choosing what you believe. You are choosing what hurts less right now. This is how small compromises happen. From laughing at a cruel joke to going along with a risky plan. Often, conformity is not conviction, it is relief. Cognitive dissonance is not a flaw in the mind. It is a normal signal that shows up when you learn something new, hear a challenging viewpoint, or face a difficult choice. The question is how you respond when that discomfort rises. A better approach starts with naming it. I feel tension because two things in me do not match. Then practice mindfulness-style attention, watching the discomfort like a wave instead of rushing to silence it with a convenient story. Slow down before you dismiss information, and ask whether you are rejecting it because you have evidence or because it makes you uneasy. And when pressure from a crowd is pushing you, step back long enough to let your own judgment return. The goal is not perfect consistency. It is honest alignment. When you understand this mechanism, your decisions get clearer, less reactive, and less driven by the need for instant relief. Sometimes that clarity is exactly what it takes to set the cigarette down.